All right, today we're with Jameson Stone and David Granjo, the creators of the Red Opera, which is currently a Kickstarter, and it's a 5e campaign in a city where warlocks reign eternal. Is
Yeah,
what it
we're super
says.
excited,
Yeah.
super excited to be here with you guys and talk about some epic gaming.
Yes, super excited to be here, guys.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I've actually been following this for a while. I've seen Facebook ads on it for several months. I don't even know when it started, but I've been following it for a little bit. It sounded really cool. You guys have done a great job creating videos and all the hype and stuff like that, and it's pretty unique. I don't think I've seen the campaign or a full big adventure, anyways, based off of Warlocks, which I think are very interesting but underutilized and kind of underpowered. A little bit in 5e, I think, as well. But
Totally.
yeah,
A
and
lot of
so
a
you
lot of
want
people call him the poor man's sorcerer, and I think they some people who've been like really old school gamers actually had the theory that they were maybe at one point just an enemy. That then they were like, let's make them for player characters too, but just didn't really change any of their abilities that much, and just kind of threw them in there ad hoc. So we're
yeah,
hoping to bump them up a little bit.
make them a little cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of I played Warlocks before, and like the role playing part of it is a lot of fun because you've got like this. You're basically connected to usually an evil entity, basically. I mean, most of them, I would think, unless they're like a fae or there's some celestial or whatever, but some are, like if you're a great old one or,
Yep.
some kind of demon or whatever, you're connected to some evil entity, and maybe the character's not even evil or whatever. I mean, I was playing one of the great old one, the guy was going insane. So it's kind of fun to play this like crazy old guy that was running around doing all kinds of crazy things.
Right. That has sometimes some like much higher level abilities than you'd normally have for your level, but then you have to trade it for whatever your pact or your bargain is. And yeah, the storytelling options are really pretty profound.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, what is it? It was a Tomb Pact, so actually a pretty good utility caster because of all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but it's an interesting class. So how'd you guys get started on this
Yeah,
adventure? Like, what made you decide to write something for Warlocks?
yeah, it's a great question. So David and I, we actually had just finished our last graphic novel called The Last Amazon, which people can check out at thelasamazon.com. It's a pretty cool sci-fi near future adventure, and had shipped that out to our backers. Had gone very well. It's much smaller scale than the project that we're working on now, but the heavy metal a product band called Diamorte was actually hanging out with a very close friend of mine named Rick Hines. Rick Hines is a fellow author. He and I published our first novels together at the same publishing house, and we just been friends ever since. And so Rick was showing this band our book, and they were talking about potentially turning the Red Opera album into kind of a mini adventure focusing on warlocks. And the other band member, the lead band member named Drake Mephisto, saw our book, the special edition copy of The Last Amazon, said, "Man, what if we could do it like this and have it be top of the line, top notch production value, beautiful art? Wouldn't that be cool?" And then Rick Hines, who was the writer of the campaign, said, I know this guy. We're friends. I'll reach out to him. We'll talk to him about it. And this was, many months ago, probably actually over a year and a half ago. And through many conversations of trying to figure out the details, we were able to take this kind of concept of the Red Opera album. Rick basically, and we say this lovingly, rewrote the entire thing to make it much more compatible for a fifth edition adventure. And then once he did his first draft and through various revisions, we worked together, David and I and the rest of our art team, and layout and design to really bring it into this kind of full-fledged fifth edition campaign and setting that we see now. And we have, I think, 33 pages that is our free sample on our Kickstarter page, so people can actually really see exactly what this book's going to look like. And I think we're clocking in now at about 250 pages, and if we hit the rest of our stretch goals, I think we'll probably push even into more. But that's kind of how it all came to be.
Nice. Yeah, I see you got so far 77. You made $77,000 from 1,000 backers. It's for 20 days. That's pretty good. Yeah, I think I backed it.
Well, yeah.
Backed it within the first week or something like that. But
Well, you, sir, are a hero.
Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, it just was very interesting to me because, like I said, it's different. It's different perspective, unique, and I like that it fits in any campaign world.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can just shove it. It doesn't even matter. You can stick it in your own homebrew world. Doesn't matter. You can stick it wherever you want, which is pretty cool. And it's also the dark. It's a little bit darker. I feel like there's a lot of I don't know. There's either things are either horror or they're like super light, and this is kind of
Right.
like in between the spectrum, and I think that's kind of cool.
Right. Yeah, we wanted to go for this like kind of like dark urban, how can I put it, like a kind of chaotic city, yet still being incredibly vibrant with colors. And so
Exactly.
it's like either, and I don't want to speak ill of any of our indie brethren or even really wizards around some of their color choices, but it's usually one or the other. You usually either get these fey realms that are very bright and very colorful, and that's awesome, or high fantasy, it's very, very colorful. I like that. But then everything's got, kind of soft edges, rounded, rounded stuff. It's not super sharp or I don't want to say aggressive, but it just doesn't really pop at you. Or it's just like black, red, gray, done. And that's not super beautiful to look at. We want to have you be able to turn the pages and see, really gorgeous art that really jumps out.
Yes.
While it's still being compelling.
Exactly. Yeah, it's this artistic choice. Usually horror is conveyed by dark tones that are, washed out, and then they have a little bit of color, usually red for blood.
Green
and
also green is also a color of choice for horror. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. That's pretty cool. So then, cool. So you guys want to, speaking of all the colors and stuff, you want to show us some of that?
Yes.
Yeah, David, take it away. Yeah, tell us a little bit about your artistic design process for some of these images.
Are you guys seeing the?
Yes.
Yep.
My screen. Let me put this on slideshow. I think now it's.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Yes, we actually. I'm when Jameson came with the idea to make the project, the Red Opera. I didn't know that this kind of game existed. So this progress is really also a journey for me to discover this world, and because of that, we were. I think since we come from more, at least art-wise, we come from an art book like The Last Amazon art book realm. So I think bringing that world into the D&D was one of the choices that made it more kind of from what we are used to see, from those dark tones or more stylized tones. But actually the art process was really done using only digital tools and 3D tools. We used a 3D software, a free 3D software called Blender, and with that we were using 3D assets to create these amazing scenes. We were using the soldiers and mixing their armor together and trying to create variation on the characters, and also using building assets and mixing them together. It was really a kind of like a playground, working on that software to create these incredible sets. We had our artist did a great job, Carlos Osorio. He built the whole city.
That's what I was just gonna say. He built an entire city for us for this project.
Exactly, and it was so incredibly like satisfying, like him sharing his screen and seeing like you are traveling into that world. And we're like, oh, we can like Google Map this, or we could take an angle and click render and we have an image from any angle of the city. It was really cool to see that develop and all the possibilities that that tool bring us to
So
do the
and we're going to be actually doing some live stream versions. You can probably stop sharing your screen, David. Thank you. Doing some live stream options of the actual book itself being played, and we're going to be able to have it be kind of blended in multimedia where people are able to see these locations while the GM is live streaming and describing it, but actually see the physical 3D rendering of it live, which I think is going to be really incredible and never really done before, because no other studio, indie or otherwise, has utilized, this, 2020 cutting edge 3D graphic assets to create a 5th edition campaign. And because we are also, part-time video game studio, we're able to leverage a lot of those same tools and skill sets that haven't really been done before for Dungeons and Dragons or really any other tabletop RPG.
And also in implementing the new tools that we see in AAA video games like The Witcher, that even games that were inspired by these book RPGs, I think we really can leverage that one industry feeding into the other.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, actually. And I assume you're going to be able to make some pretty cool maps off that as well.
Totally.
Yeah. Do you turn those into like some AutoCAD type thing, or?
So we'd like to be able to do the VTT or VVT. I always mix those up, but
I think it's a VVT file.
That's it. To be able to have them, projected for folks who have, the digital tabletops as well. For us, those would be just, additional stretch goals. One of the things for, there's a lot of different ways to play tabletop RPGs, and my background is more of like World of Darkness and Shadowrun, which is a lot more of kind of like the theater of the mind style tabletop RPG. And again, no hate on people with hex max and minis, and we actually have minis for our campaign. These are actual minis that we had custom made through Anvil Games for this particular project. And I really love painting, and I'm a Warhammer 40K painter, and so it'd be fun to paint these and see what our fans, how they do it. They'll do much better than me, I'm sure. But we really designed the campaign to be around that theater of the mind style, knowing that we could always make maps down the road. But if we get like that foundation for a storyteller to really be able to have a full 360 idea of the world that they're playing in, then from there we can kind of do sky's the limit. We want to get that foundation really set.
Yeah, it's so important. I feel like there's just not, like, 5th edition for some reason doesn't have a lot of splat books either for some reason, and it suffers from that. Like, you get an adventure, and I'm running this adventure, and I'm having to, like, it says you go to some city, and I'm like, and it's like 2 paragraphs about it. I'm like,
right,
this is some cool. So do we just fly? Like, is it just a flyover city, or do we actually want to like make it interesting, right? And so I'll like go find like the old Volo's guidebooks from the 90s, and everything's in those books. I mean, they should just republish them. They don't even need to like write new content. Like literally every city they ever have is in those old, like in the Forgotten Realms anyways. So all the Volo's guides is they just publish things again and be all good. But so I just go in there, read it, and like, oh, okay, it's got like 5 pages about the city and songs they sing in the taverns and all the famous taverns and blah. And then it's like, oh, all of a sudden this goes from being like Podunk, Iowa to, to some interesting actual place, right? Like somewhere you actually want to go. Like, I don't know, I can't think of a name of, like the Emerald City goes from, the same city turns from nothing to like something unique and different and memorable.
Totally. And for a storyteller, it's not really that hard to do. And I don't know, I don't want to say like lazy storytelling, but I don't know, I'll just speak for us. We wanted to create the Shadelands. And so this Yongkath is this dual city within the Shadelands for the Red Opera, where you as a GM or as a player, you can run that for any party that you have, whether level 1, level 20, or something, anywhere in between, and be able to just be like, oh, you guys need to go do this thing, and it involves warlocks. Well, then you're going to go to Yongkath. That's the warlock city, and to have it like described in such depth and detail with these images that like you really see it. I mean, for a resource for a GM, even if they don't want to run our particular campaign, which would be a tragedy because it's really good, but they could just use that as an actual guidebook, either for the city itself as a location, or even just for warlocks. And now that we're hitting these stretch goals, which we're thrilled about, we're able to add a lot more content. One of the ones that's coming up is actually just like a guide on how to sell your soul and how to craft a really good and compelling patron pact, and then how to design a patron for a warlock. And so the GM and the player can kind of work together to figure out what that's like. Because a lot of people don't really understand how that dynamic works, because it's kind of rare, as we were discussing earlier.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. And it can be very interesting. It's like one of the more interesting class stories there is, because it can have so many different repercussions, and it can affect the way the character interacts and everything like that. Like if you want to play somebody who's on the edge of insanity, or their mind's being twisted, or they're doing things, they don't say they're having to do something, they are forced to do something they don't even want to say, they don't even want to be on the adventure, but like their patrons, like
Exactly.
forcing it on them, or it's just so many different things you can do. Or maybe they're good and they're forced to do evil things, or they're evil but they're forced to do good things because of the pact they made. They wanted to gain power, but now they're forced to go on their patrons, making them do all this good stuff, and they hate. You could just do all kinds of interesting stories like that.
Yeah, dude, exactly.